So this is tape synth. It's based on a synth voice that I created for a generative piece a few months ago called Tape Piece. And the whole idea of that generative piece was to sort of uh, recreate the sounds that are, very popular today with like a four-track, tape loop sort of thing, like Cortini does, that sort of, chewed up, distorted, washed out sound. So that's the idea behind that patch. And then I took one of the voices in that patch, which was originally a chord synth, and I adapted it to be a six voice MIDI playable polyphonic synth. This one. Um, And, the other reason I wanted to adapt it is because the ZOIA Discord is doing a new project that I'm trying to get off the ground called a monthly collage, where we all sort of contribute different stuff to a theme. And this month's theme is Make Merc. So I've been sort of planning on making this patch for a while anyhow, but this seemed like a opportune moment. Um, so just to walk through the controls a little bit. Across the top, you have controls for the envelope, and it goes up to 60 seconds because I sort of imagine this patch as something where you might use it for really sort of like really long, drawn out pad sounds. Um, so right now I'm playing, and it's slowly going to start getting louder. Stuff that fades in super slowly. So this is the whole span of the attack decay, or of the ADSR's attack range. And the same with the release. I simplified the envelope. It's an attack, sustain, release envelope. So, only 3 stages, and the sustain stage is built in. And then there's a button right here to turn velocity on and off. And one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of this patch depends on headroom. So with velocity off, there's less headroom, which may be desirable because, one of the things that's going on in this patch is distortion. So it's a little bit easier to hit that distortion with the velocity off. Then there's some controls for sort of the the effects. The timbre is pretty simple. It's an FM modulated sine wave, but there's a warp depth. This is a vibrato that is supposed to emulate sort of cassette warping. You can hear it sort of every now and then. So it's supposed to be kind of irregular to give that, lo-fi feel. And then there's a noise mod where you can increase the amount that noise modulates the oscillators and the amplifiers, the VCAs. And just sort of give it a wash of noise. And then there's filters that are pretty important to the tone shaping. A high pass and a low pass filter, so you can make it even more, sort of narrowly band passed. less. And then there's control over the distortion amount. You have control, the distortion has a built-in modulation, and so you can turn that down if you want it to be less modulated. The modulation is sort of designed around the idea of like, you know, those parts in a corroded cassette where like everything just sort of gets really compressed and all the sort of definition disappears. You may have heard it already in some of the playing that I've done. And the patch never really gets like clean, but you can, you know, decide how much distortion you want. And how much you want that distortion to be modulated. It's modulating the input gain and output gain of the distortion module. So, you know, you get these fluctuations in amplitude and compression and breakup and especially if we turn off the velocity. Or if you hit the keys harder than I do, I guess it's also part of that. I'm just sort of lightly pressing them right now, but the velocity gives you some control over, you know, like how much distortion is heard, because again, it has to do with the headroom going into this distortion module and all of that sort of thing. So that's the patch. It's not like super versatile, but I think for like a certain feel, you know, it may be something that you want to try out. And if you do, I hope you enjoy it. So that is tape synth. Take care.